Hello everyone, X-Wall-Kill Bethelite here, and we're going to discuss why Jehovah's Witnesses are dead in the water. Have you ever really wondered why Jehovah's Witnesses have only expanded but so much in their membership before that membership essentially completely stop showing any signs of growth? Why is it you have all these religions and yet Jehovah's Witnesses, after only getting maybe 6, maybe 7 million, if that, you got to keep in mind, a lot of people leave, and a lot of people that are there are only there out of fear of the shunning. So the numbers that they have, that they've accumulated, this is pretty much stopped, and it has been like this for years and years and years. Watchtowers dead in the water. Have you ever wondered why? Well, I want to discuss that. I want to discuss the reasons why. The reasons why Jehovah's Witnesses came up with JW.org, and they thought that was going to be big. They were all walking around with little badges on their shoulder that said JW.org. I mean, they would talk about it all day. JW.org. Wow, we've got a website now. And yet and still, the growth, still not there. It did not fix it. It didn't fix the problem. Jehovah's Witnesses came out with JW.org, their little website, where they could lie to the public and say, oh, we don't tell families to shun each other. Well, the problem that Jehovah's Witnesses have is that they are a specifically young religion. You look at the Mormons and you ask yourself, why is it that the Mormons are literally twice the size as Jehovah's Witnesses? And their religion is extremely different from most Christianity, right? So Jehovah's Witnesses can't use the excuse, oh, our religion is just so different, that's why our numbers are so small. Mormons, you don't get too much more different, and they're twice the size. Well, the problem that Jehovah's Witnesses have is their youth. Joseph Smith died in the 1800s. The leader of the Mormon religion died in the 1800s. That religion has been around for a longer amount of time. Jehovah's Witnesses didn't get the name Jehovah's Witnesses until like the 1930s, for crying out loud. This is an extremely young religion. Keep in mind, Charles Taze Russell, pretty much everything he taught, they just threw it out the window. So they didn't really develop into what they are until the 1900s. They didn't get their name until well into the 1900s. We're trying to figure out, why did this religion fizzle out so quick? The growth stopped amongst Jehovah's Witnesses in my time, when I was younger. Right? This religion didn't get his name until the 1930s. You could let's just say if you started it there in the 30s. Well, they grew, they expanded, and then in 1975, predicted the end of the world. How ridiculous is that? They grew, they expanded, and they predicted the end of the world in 1975. And to an extent, it has been downhill from there. The Mormons, it's the polar opposite. In 1978, I believe, somewhere around there, Mormons were getting rid, in their main church, the largest church, the LDS Mormons, Latter-day Saints Mormons, those are the larger group of Mormons. In 1978, where Watchtower was still extreme in 1975, they're making end of the world predictions. Well, in 1978, the Mormons were getting rid of the last of their extreme doctrines. They're not involved in the polygamy. They got rid of the polygamy. Not all Mormons, but the main church, in the sense of size. And then in 1978, they got rid of the racist doctrine, where you can't be black and go into one of their temples or be part of the stuff they got going on in their temples. You're not allowed to do it if you're black. Well, they got rid of that in 1978. The difference here, the reason why Jehovah's Witnesses have fizzled out to the point where there's a few million of them and they don't really grow too much more than that, is because most religions have got to break away from their extreme form in order to grow today in the United States and other places. You got to break away from the extreme form. The Mormons did that. The FLDS and all these other groups, they may just be just as legitimate. Joseph Smith died, and then who takes over the religion? Well, the group that got rid of their extreme doctrines, the group that went mainstream, the Latter-day Saints Mormon group, that's the group that's twice the size of the Jehovah's Witnesses. It's not by chance. This did not happen by chance. It happened because they decided, if we're going to expand, we got to get rid of some of this stuff. We got to get rid of the polygamy. We got to get rid of the racist doctrine. The problem with Jehovah's Witnesses is they haven't figured this out yet. Jehovah's Witnesses are still young. Right? They haven't been around as long as the Mormons to figure this out. The Jehovah's Witnesses have not figured out. They're no different from anyone else. Everybody, every cult had to get rid of the extreme version of itself in order to essentially bring in the numbers that they want. So what I'm saying is Watchtower is young. The Mormon Church and probably other cults, when they were as young as Watchtower is today, they may have just started to get rid of the extreme doctrines. And then they grew beyond that. Jehovah's Witnesses are just like the Mormons, just like any other extreme group. You're gonna die off unless you get rid of the extreme doctrines. Or let me change that. Let's change that you're going to die off. You're going to become so small and irrelevant that nobody cares. If you do exist, nobody cares. That's how small and irrelevant you will become if you don't get rid of the extreme doctrines. Well, Jehovah's Witnesses aren't even close. They're not even close. The only thing that they've been able to do is lie to the general public. They lie and say on their website, oh, we don't cause families to shun each other. The problem is they didn't change the teaching. They just lied on their website, right? The Mormons would not have had the numbers that they had today if they just made a website. Jehovah's Witnesses just think they're geniuses. We're going to make a website where we're just going to lie to everybody. We're not going to change the teachings. We're just going to lie to everybody on our website. How stupid are these? The leadership of Jehovah's Witnesses, they're stupid. In addition to the following of Jehovah's Witnesses, because every other group realizes we've got to get rid of our extreme form, right? The extreme form of the Mormons still exists. They're just super small. They're not ever going to get big. You still have FLDS. You still have people trying to practice polygamy and marrying people really young and all those sorts of things. You still have the extreme form of probably the more so original form of Mormonism. You still have it, but they're so small, we don't care about them. Right? We don't care about them until they end up on the news because the FBI or whoever has to raid them and get all these young girls out of there that they're trying to marry. Right? But before they did that, we didn't know they existed. This is what's going to happen to the Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm telling you, the blueprint is tried and true. It's been the same for everybody. Become more mainstream in the sense that not more mainstream in the sense that you agree with everything going on, because there's Christians that aren't liberal. By mainstream, I don't mean liberal. By mainstream, I mean the extreme, insane, crazy cult stuff. That stuff you got to get rid of in order for you to expand. That's the reason why Jehovah's Witnesses around 1975 and beyond, that number, that they started dropping in numbers. And now, today, we don't even know how many fully believing Jehovah's Witnesses there are. We can't count them. We can't look at what Wikipedia says because we know Watchtower lies. Just look at their website when they're talking about shunning. We know Watchtower lies. And B, we know there are tons of people who are being counted as Jehovah's Witnesses, but they're not really Jehovah's Witnesses. They're just pretty much in prison because of the shunning. So Watchtower could literally just really have like 5 to 4 million people. If we don't count all the people that are aware that it's baloney. Watchtower could be a lot smaller than what they pretend to be. Excuse me. So the reason why Jehovah's Witnesses have pretty much I mean, they're not relevant is because they're so young. 1931, when you get the name Jehovah's Witnesses, my land's that's young. They're just now realizing the correct pronunciation of God's name in Jehovah. You know what I mean? They're just realizing not too long ago that the end of the world wasn't going to come during the generation of 1914. This group is so young, the Jehovah's Witnesses are so young, that they're still trying to get their doctrine together, let alone leave the extreme form that they started with. They can't leave the extreme form. They ain't even got their doctrine together yet. This religion is so young. That's the reason why. That's number one. That's the reason why they're so young and they never left their extreme form to a more acceptable mainstream form. And then number two, because of the shunning, because they did eventually get into the millions, and it affected a lot of people. And you have not only the shunning, but the false predictions. So you got people that sold homes, did all kinds of things, didn't get higher education, did all kinds of things because this young little group that everybody wanted to believe, predicted the end of the world multiple times and is telling everybody the end of the world is around the corner and all this stuff. Because people wanted to believe this little young group, 1900s young, it has affected people so adversely that now, not only does Watchtower have its extreme form in one hand, and you got to figure out what to do with this, but in the right hand, you've got all the people you have negatively affected with all the false teachings, with all the shunning, with all the pedophilia that ran rampant in that little young religion. So those are really the two reasons why Watchtower is in the position that it's in. Because you could say, well, if you look at the youth of Watchtower, you could say, well, they have a chance at becoming like what the Mormons are, becoming what like other groups are, because they're just like them. They're just younger. They're a younger version. And the younger version is always the smaller version, because the younger version is always the more extreme version. Well, no. The Mormons didn't predict the end of the world. The Mormons weren't really involved with shunning like that. In other words, the Mormons didn't do as much damage as the Jehovah's Witnesses did in such a short period of time. The Jehovah's Witnesses have done so much damage in the short lifespan that it's had, that it now has probably the most active group of whistleblowers that exists in any religion. Think about it. A young religion only got its name in the 1930s. And in that small amount of time, did so much damage that they have created the largest group of people, the largest group of whistleblowers in existence. No other religion has done that I know of. So you can't compare the Jehovah's Witnesses to just a young group of Mormons that once they figure out to just, break away from the extreme form, they'll be okay. No, the Jehovah's Witnesses won't be okay because they've done too much damage already. They done so much damage, you can't sweep that under the rug. Right? The Mormons were so young when they decided to get rid of the racist teaching about, blacks can't be in the temple, and all that stuff, that today there are probably people that don't even know that teaching existed. They may not know that teaching existed. But the Jehovah's Witnesses, they can't sweep predicting the end of the world under the rug. They can't sweep all the destroyed families they've left in their wake under the rug. There are so many things that they can't sweep under the rug because Jehovah's Witnesses, again, if you start your religion way back in the 1800s, well, the internet wasn't a big thing. There's so many things you can hide. It's not funny. So the Mormons benefited from that. The Mormons benefited from way back in the 1800s when Joseph Smith was talking about, Angel Moroni and all that. There wasn't really internet like that. Jehovah's Witnesses got their name in the 1930s. So while they're going through all their blunders and mess ups and extremism and craziness, we got the internet now. We captured all that on the internet. So Jehovah's Witnesses, I don't think they will survive their youth. By youth, I'm talking about the organization. I'm talking about how young it is. The Jehovah's Witness organization is not going to survive its youth like the Mormons did. Like all these other religions did. They survived their youth. The problem, their youth, their, craziness, the insanity, that was before the internet. The Jehovah's Witnesses showed out and showed all their craziness and went through their whole, the youth of the religion and all that. All that is captured online. It's captured online. So the Jehovah's Witnesses are dealing with things no other religion has had to deal with. None. No other religion has had to deal with it. No other religion has got the extreme form of it all captured online like the way the Jehovah's Witnesses do. I mean, we got text messages. You can screenshot text messages. We've got text messages where the Jehovah's Witness is shunning a relative that's reaching out to them. And all you got to do is screenshot that text message and bam, you got it to show everybody. You've got conversations recorded. The technology is the death of the religion. The technology, all their craziness, all their extremism is caught on line. And they can't do anything about it. They've already tried suing people that have had their old literature online. Watchtower's already tried to do that, and it didn't work. Because they've got countless people out here that are putting all their history online. Comment down below, let me know what you think. Because it's true, Watchtower is extremely young. But that does not mean, well, let me rephrase that. It's true, Watchtower is extremely young and is still in its extreme form. But that does not mean it will survive and there will be a group of people that break away from the extreme form and become more mainstream and bring in the numbers. Because Watchtower is so young, they're in the internet age. A lot of their craziness is in the internet age. And they can't survive that. Internet ain't going nowhere. They cannot survive that. They haven't been able to. They haven't come up with a way to survive it. Only thing they can do is lie. But the information is still there online. They've tried lying. They've tried suing people. They can't sweep this under the rug. And they ain't even started breaking away from their extreme form yet. So comment down below. Let me know what you think. And another side point is I still consider your adult Jehovah's Witness with all this information online. Keep in mind, this is the internet age. We all know how to use this stuff. I still consider them stupid. I don't call them brainwashed and mentally mind controlled and all this crazy stuff that basically is designed to take away accountability. Because if you take a person's accountability away, they're never going to learn. They're never going to stop doing what they're doing because nobody's going to hold them accountable. Everybody thinks that these people don't have no control over their own brain and don't know that they're shunning. Like that's false. That's a lie. Right? If we don't want to spread that lie, because if it gets in the general public that they're just mind controlled, they don't get the full brunt of the responsibility of their act. And that is shunning their own family members. They do not get the full brunt of that act. If we're telling everybody that their brains are being controlled somehow. Their brains aren't being controlled. They were lied to, yes, but their brains aren't being controlled because some of them know the shunning is so bad that they won't even do it. Right? There are people that have chosen to shun their own family members, and there are people that choose not to do it. The main group, though, chooses to shun their family members. It is a choice. Watchtower does not have a remote control that controls your relative's brain. If we're telling people that it's an extreme attempt at removing our family members from any kind of responsibility of what they choose to do. If they get the brunt of, the responsibility of what they're choosing to do, then yes, it's stupid. Yes, the general public would call them stupid. And yes, it would be a lot less popular to be doing those sorts of things if people called a spade a spade. This is stupidity. You're shunning them. So the people you want in your religion are people you say are so bad you can't even talk to them, but you want them to come back into your religion, but they're so bad you can't talk to them. Make it make sense. If they're so bad you can't talk to them, why would you want them in there? The concepts, the Jehovah's Witness concepts, are so stupid that if we call a spade, it'll be less easy for these people to keep doing it. But if we tell people that they're mind controlled, that Watchtower has got some kind of device that controls people's minds and they don't have no responsibility for what they're doing, then they'll just keep doing it. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. X-Wall Kill Bethelite signing out.